Board of Park Commissioners of the Bluff Park District, Illinois. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Earhart.
Absent on prior notice.
Commissioner Gordon.
Here.
Commissioner McKendry. Here. Commissioner Mossbarger.
Absent on prior notice.
Commissioner Patera. Here. Commissioner Wallace.
Here.
President Douglas.
Here. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second?
Okay.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry.
Yes.
Commissioner Patera.
Yes.
Commissioner Wallace.
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Okay, now it's a moment for statement of visitors for any non-agenda items. Any statements at all to be heard? If not, we'll move on to verbal communications and starting with staff.
Yeah, just a couple things. One, if you have those binders from the old budget books, Dawn said she'd be glad to take them. If you don't want to bring them in, we can come and pick them up at your house. If you put them by your front door, let me know. We can send the maintenance staff a truck. Yes, exactly. But seriously, you can put them by your front door and we will pick them up. So,
I've got a deal for you, because I have a tenant that moved out and they left a lot of current
well, we hope that we don't need binders.
But
She'll take them.
I could go.
No, we do use them for finance and other things like that, so yeah. But please do let us know so we can recycle and all that. Yeah, again, IAPD, IPRA conference, if you can make that, it is a great opportunity again for education. So please let us know. The other thing is some news. I was just talking with Commissioner McKendry, and I learned of this late Friday from the Army Corps. I'm still getting all the pieces of information, but some of you maybe do, maybe don't know, but I'm in charge, George and I. George is part of a committee, permit committee, and I'm part of a committee for beach nourishment through the coastal IDNR coastal group. And so the committee that I chair put together a grant for basically a pilot program for 4 agencies. So Foss Park District, Lake Bluff Park District, Glencoe, and Evanston, to have dredge sand from Waukegan Harbor onto our beaches. So it's a complicated grant. There's been two pilot programs we put in for. One was a cost sharing, one was not a cost sharing. We were narrowed down nationally down to 2, our group was. And I found out, I'm still waiting for it, but it says, it means the placement of some sand to be determined pending funding, provided volume of sediment from Waukegan Harbor onto the beaches at the 4 locations that I mentioned. Requested will be completed at full federal expense rather than cost sharing from the local communities. So it wouldn't be done this summer, but it'd be done summer of 2020, when I think it could happen. So don't know what that all entails, but that's been, George, how many years? 3 years we've been on this, 4 years, 5 years maybe?
It's going to get 30.
30, it feels like 30. It's a lengthy process, but some very potential good news to start taking some things off our books here.
Is it a one-time or is it an annual?
It could be a potential annual thing, so.
That's great.
Because I would think that dredging, since the sand moves south, is closing up that harbor. And if, so if they regularly dredge it, I would assume.
And that would help the harbor, and then it would help those starved.
And they're just bringing the sand downstream
Yeah.
and getting our sand that we would otherwise not have.
Yeah. So, and it definitely is important as we look at our coastal engineering study. So that could actually really help. So they'll go hand in hand. So I thought that was some last minute news for
That's
you.
great news.
Yeah.
It's awesome news. And they have nicer sand than us. And what would be the savings too, Ron? What's
So,
the estimated value of this?
well, yeah, so we put together, over 5 years, it's close to 40. Sometimes we spent $15,000, $20,000 in sand. This next upcoming year is 8 to 10. So, but over a 10-year period, almost $100,000.
How much? I'm putting $10,000 a year is what
Yeah.
the forecast.
So,
Yeah, and it's in the forecast, right?
yeah. So that's a lot of money really to us.
Great news.
Yeah.
So that's mine. I'll let these two.
Sure. So just a couple informational things. One is the facility service manager position. We just posted it last week. I think it was last week Friday. So if you know someone who's interested, tell them to go to our website and apply for the position. Also, summer seasonal positions will be online hopefully by mid-January. We want to make sure we get a jump start to get those young men and ladies applying for the park district, all for camp jobs, pool, beach, all seasonal summer jobs that we have. So that'll be available in January. Finally, just a programming note. We did start our first time ever doing a preschool basketball program. It was kind of a rough start 2 weeks ago. It's kind of like herding cats, you know? But I was there Saturday, and I was actually very impressed. Kids were attentive. They were listening, and they were in the defensive mode. So it was pretty awesome to see. We had really good instructors. So hopefully moving forward, we can continue to grow with that program. So it was exciting to see them at that age.
Did they look like a scrum kind of pack?
They had their arms up and they were ready to go. Those kids, it was fun to watch. It was really fun to watch.
Before we turn it over to Noah, I did forget, I sent it out to the board, but to welcome Noah to his new superintendent position. So,
Congratulations.
Noah, you've been with us how many years now? I can't, since,
You want me to tell you the real number? Or
yeah, what's the real number?
I started almost 30 years now. It'll be officially 30 years next year,
So,
in some capacity.
so if
How old
you
were you, like 7?
I appreciate the compliment. I was actually closer to 12.
Man.
But I do want to say, just a reminder, as part of the reorg plan, so his position was eliminated. He will be taking on the responsibilities of the Facilities and Parks Division. So he went through a grueling interview process, and he did a great job, and so we'll see some very positive results. So, but no, I'll take it away if you have a few things. So.
Sure. As far as what we're doing in maintenance right now, the ice rink is on its way, but we're weather dependent as always. We're still waiting for colder weather to help us out with that in that regard. I have 2 full-time staff positions that I'm working on staffing currently. We've been through the first round of interviews. I've got some promising candidates, so looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you and with our current staff that's here and moving forward.
Great. Okay, great. Thank you.
Good, that's it. We're good.
Any other staff? Is that it on the staff? Okay. Any committee reports here at all?
No, I know we really haven't met, and we needed the break. We spent, I think everyone's sick of me, so I think we really needed to get to the budget. But we do have some outstanding items that we need to address. Personnel policy manual, a lot more changes just in terms of language, not necessarily new policies. And then the employee market analysis. So we'll probably tackle that the January 14th week. So in terms of Parks and Beach Committee, just Jim and I had a meeting today with 2 residents. And Rob, maybe you can give a little insight on the parking beach. But basically, the outcome is the village and the committee is asking for our assistance in enforcing the beach much differently than we've ever enforced before. We've kind of had this
Parking specifically, you're talking.
more enforcement down at the beach.
Okay, at the entry point.
At the entry point. And so to improve our stats, but more of the entry point itself. Currently, there's a card with no picture. Jim and I are working on that. We'll come to the Parks and Beach Committee. We think that is one way to solve this, is that everyone who wants a beach pass, who wants access, if we can get to a point where we can't look it up on the computer, but let's say we can look it up on the computer, and you don't have your pass, and we can look it up on the computer. But if we can't get access to our software down there, we're gonna have to really work with the Parks and Beach Committee on more stringent policies. And that hasn't been the Lake Bluff way or the Park District way. So we're really gonna have to talk about that because the pressure is now on us to enforce more than we've ever enforced before. So,
I sort of forget how this all came up. It's been, I guess, a quasi issue for a number of years probably, but we've been able to, correct me if I'm wrong, but now it's sort of come to a little bit more of a, we have to address, we can't kick the can, and this is what the village wanted to put the onus on us, right? So
yeah, I mean, they're taking care of the parking piece of it and they're looking for us to manage.
Up top,
Yes.
yeah.
And they're looking for us to handle
Yeah,
that.
okay.
And what is the goal?
Right.
Well, is the goal to make it more difficult for our residents, or is the goal to make it so non-residents can't come? Or what are we trying to
What are
do?
we trying to do?
Well, what I can tell you, at least with the last
Rob was on
committee,
that
and George is on that committee too. Personally, there's a disconnect between pedestrians and people on foot, which most of the people around the beach, I think, are on foot probably. And they're walking down, go to the entry point, and they're on the beach. The question is, how many people are driving there and then parking on village streets and then walking down? And that is a very tricky gap to fill. But they're asking for us to try to modify our way of monitoring people coming and going. And it was something similar to what we might have with like the fitness center. So you have a card with your picture on it, and it could be scanned, and we can hopefully start building a better database. But personally, I'm a little challenged on really how we managed, or how do we have nothing to do with how cars arrive there. That's the difficulty. And there was my.
And there's shooting down there, there's tons of cars that people just park and walk along the top of the beach. They don't even go down to the beach.
Well, see, that's the thing, or they may be visiting people, or they may be, maybe that's a service vehicle that's doing some work on a house. So it's hard to measure. Now, one thing that this committee came up with was a recommendation on Center Avenue to introduce some fairly subtle parallel parking markers along the street, which is reducing the density by about 25% from what the capacity of the parking has been. So we're trying to dilute it, and also north-south roads on Spruce and Maple. I believe there's no parking on both sides, and that was really due to the fact those roads are so narrow that emergency vehicles can't move through there. Bottom line is, our streets aren't designed for the parking that is needed, so we're trying to spread it out. At this point, I think, I don't know if the language was used, but I believe, well, I was hoping the word pilot would be used. This is a pilot program. We'll give it a go this year. We'll revisit next fall, and maybe with more data collection, we'll be able to have a better idea of just how it can be modified in the fall, what's working, what's not working. There's no perfect science to this. So
I think the goal, Bob, from a resident standpoint, is to accurately provide some data count on how many residents are coming down, and then how many non-residents are they bringing, as well as residents who are using the passes unlawfully, maybe passing them out to friends.
You have a little more control over
More
the
control
process.
even for the residents. I'm only stating what they're asking the park board to do.
We've all been down there. It's a very difficult situation as it is already, and it's gonna be harder when you enforce more stuff on them. It's just gonna be really hard on staff and really hard the practicality of it is gonna be difficult.
Well, but I'm not so sure we don't do anything. I mean, if it's, not only do I not live in that immediate proximity, and I'm not down at the beach as a lot of you are, but I think just because it is going to be difficult, if we determine this is the right thing to do, like I said, to ensure that the people that the residents that should have access are having a chance a little bit more easily. That's saying some other people that have taken advantage of this, so.
Well,
I think it's worth it.
remember, the recreational people pay $15 if they're a non-resident, come down.
Oh, so now you're talking about revenue as well?
Well, no, I'm just talking about if you're, I mean, if you're gonna park there and charge them $15, you know, the parking to me, sorry, but the parking is one issue and the beach access is another issue. They're interrelated, but
Right.
I just don't want the park district to be the one that has to bear the brunt of all of this stuff because they're not dealing with it at the village.
Well, and the other thing they were asking was for us to extend our staffing time down there, which costs money. And how do we budget something like that? So,
We'll go to the Parks and Beach
there's a lot of
Committee, I thought I'd give you a heads up.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, it's good for Corey and George to hear how some of the board members feel as they address this.
But I think the committee made a good first step toward trying to address the issue. And we'll just have to see how it goes.
But I think there is some technology that we can do to be able to track better. Right now, some people are coming down just saying, I live at so-and-so, and I absolutely know that they moved out of Lake Bluff. And we've just allowed that, we've said that's okay. So I think if we limit some of that,
What's the policy for visitors with that are with a resident?
unlimited, so you can bring 10, 15 people, but you have to be with them.
So as long as there's one resident
Yes.
with one card, they
Yeah,
can
that's
bring in
true.
10.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's looking for that to be changed at all. I think it's more enforcement, so making sure the resident is a resident. And then we're separating them, because we've been tracking them as residents, those non-residents, we've been tracking them, they need to be counted as non-residents.
Non-residents.
And I think with some of the things that the Parks and Beach Committee already had approved and decided, you know, and brought forth to the board with the changes between the shelter rental hours, the number of parking passes that are limited, the price change structure that we had done. I think all of that hand in hand just shows how much we've already, you know, we're addressing this. I think there's just a little bit more if we can on the data collection aspect, more than anything else.
Because with data, then you can see patterns. If we can get the data tightened up in a way, we can then really develop trend lines and patterns, so. But I think the committee did a pretty good job, the first step. There was a lot of emotional elements around this too, which I think the committee tried to keep the objectivity there. So it's a good first step.
So same thing with facilities and programs committee. I'd say the first 2 months are probably critical months for your committee, so that would be my job, putting topics together here that are relevant to your committee.
Well, the good news about the parking is, parking really should make it more convenient for the neighbors in the neighborhood near the beach, and also open up parking for residents. That's really the key. It's really not to make it, like Bob said, it's not to make it more difficult for a resident to get down to the beach. I mean, that would be horrible. That would be counterproductive if we make this, if this ends up to be more challenging for a resident.
Right.
But one of the things I think we can do, and we should do, is I don't think it should be a 15 or 16 or 17-year-old doing that. Because I think that's too much pressure on them to be kicking people off the beach. I think it does have to be somebody a little older, a little more responsible, a little more confident. And it always helps. It's always helped when they know they're from Lake Bluff. That is like one area I like them from Lake Bluff, because if you're walking down and you don't have your beach pass and they know you, your neighbors, or he was your Boy Scout leader, you can let him down. I don't want that person being turned away when that person knows that they're from Lake Bluff. Because they're taxpayers and they need to come down.
Right, but the challenge I will only state is what's happening if we're not scanning people in, we're losing our data, we're losing, and I will say the other thing is there are definitely people who lived in Lake Bluff and then moved out of Lake Bluff, and they're still using their old Lake Bluff address. And the staff are in a really precarious position, I will say. Because then our staff's getting blamed that we're not asking for ID or we're not checking things. It's a fine line. I mean, we want to be
Yeah, for sure.
customer friendly, but we're also then, and then we have people in open meetings, at village meetings saying, we're not doing a good job. So I don't know what the right answers are right now, but it would help our staff and gain more confidence somehow if, not that we take a hard line, but there's a better tracking system of some sort.
A line.
A line, I guess,
Call it
a
a hard
line.
line.
So I agree, I just also would say it's tricky for us. So that gray area has really been hard for us. I don't know what the right answer is.
Because I think a little bit of what came up with that meeting too is when the emotions wound up a little bit, it really becomes more philosophical too. Who are we as like lovers? And it's about the quality of what we bring and how open we want to be to everybody. At the same time, we've got to have some rules.
I think a happy medium would be if we have software and you don't have your license with you. Okay, let's look you up, Mr. Jones, boom, boom, boom. Picture matches, boom, done.
I like that.
That's,
I like
that
that.
would solve it.
Objectivity,
Yeah, that would solve everything. And it could, then that's a compromise.
And I'll talk to you later. I got technology out here.
Okay, that's good. We're open to that. That's what we're
I
saying.
saw something in the publication, so, okay.
The only thing I would add, Friends of Lake Bluff Parks, I think it would be good at some point in time that we do have a joint meeting with them. Is there, we've been talking about fundraising, that's a key goal, as well as the capital. So that probably, we obviously have to have a discussion first about the capital projects. So maybe February of some sort, a joint meeting that we can come together and they can understand where we're going, and I think that would be important. So that'd be the only thing that I would say moving forward.
That's a slam dunk.
So.
Oh, we could have it in the new clubhouse.
I can't wait. to
That'd be
see
after, that'd be
it.
nice, we have another one. So. I'd like to get one before that,
Yeah.
but we can have two. That's good.
Well, maybe that could be, the opening.
That could be a soft opening for us.
As long as the dust is gonna hit my eggs, we did a breakfast meeting or something.
Okay. That's all we have, all our reports.
Any commissioner comments on anything else? I have nothing to report, so let's move on to meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 12th, 2018 regular board meeting?
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry.
Yes.
Commissioner Patera,
Yes?
Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Okay, next one is the approval of the meeting minutes on December 3rd, 2018 special board meeting. Motion for that, please.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes?
Commissioner Patera,
Yes.
Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Next one is the approval of the meeting minutes for December 3rd, 2018 public hearing.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes?
Commissioner Patera,
Yes?
Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. And the last one, approval of minutes for December 3rd, 2018 committee as a whole.
So moved.
Second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes?
Commissioner Patera,
Yes?
Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda. May I have a motion to accept the November 12th, December 3rd, 12th, and 17th, 2018 payables?
So moved. Second?
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry,
Yes?
Commissioner Patera,
Yes?
Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Okay, now I would like to have a motion to approve the November 12th, December 3rd, December 12th, and December 17th, 2018 payables.
So moved. Second?
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry,
Yes.
Commissioner Patera, Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Okay, moving on to finance, the 2018 November and year-to-date financials.
So moving forward, at the January meeting, Rob will give the end of the year report, more of a presentation, and then he'll be doing it more quarterly. He'll come to the meeting, so you hear from him how we're doing, not necessarily me. So he's been focused on the budget, but we'll do our best to answer any questions. We're still on target where we thought we were going to be, what we can tell the board. Things have just been fluctuating, we're trying to not buy anything at the end of the year here. So, you know, we're just pacing where we thought we'd be pacing.
Any questions, anyone?
He's going to be taking a look at, working with Treasurer Patera and Member Wallace on the format of this too. He wants to really take a look at the format, so he's been waiting to do that, but just so you know, it will look differently.
I appreciate that.
The summary or just the overall presentation of the binder?
No, just a summary of the financials.
Any other questions, anyone? We have a motion to approve the November 18, November and year-to-date financials as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry,
Yes.
Commissioner Patera,
Yes.
Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Moving on, purchase cards ratification.
I don't really need to talk about anything when we're less than where we've been. I anticipate still less purchases because we have less staff, you know, so all those cards have been canceled and that, so hopefully, you know, moving forward, we should see as much.
Okay, well, any questions on any of this? We have a motion to ratify the purchase card payment of $22,080.06.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry,
Yes.
Commissioner Patera,
Yes.
Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Okay, moving on to old business. Ordinance 2018F, an ordinance for the levy and the assessment of taxes for the year 2018 tax levy of the Lake Bluff Park District of Lake County, Illinois.
We've been discussing this, so it's definitely voting on it tonight. As you remember, this looks a little bit different because some of the funds.
Yes, correct. Looks a little bit different because a lot of these indirect costs, Social Security, INRF, liability insurance, will then be levied through the same process, but will then be divvied up between the respective funds, which the revenue expenditures go on to.
So it's a little bit more unusual than I'm used to. So you'll see some funds that are less, and I had to talk to him about that, but they're not, we're levying more in the general fund for that. So it's just a new process for me, so he's confirmed everything.
The pie is being cut.
That's
Yes.
well said. That's the best way to say it.
Well, could I have a motion to move to approve the ordinance 2018F, an ordinance for the levy and tax, or levy and assessment of taxes for the 2018 tax levy of the Lake Bluff Park District of Lake County, Illinois, in an amount of $3,150,837, which includes the CPI of 2.1%.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon,
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry,
Yes.
Commissioner Patera,
Yes.
Commissioner Wallace,
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes. Okay, moving on. Let's see here. Should be the 2019 budget approval. Right. So,
So I just want to do a thing. So all requested changes from last meeting have been made to the budget. and we're looking at a $290,000 surplus, district-wide in total, as well as our future financial forecast, both from the general fund and the recreation fund, give us that 25% expenditures of fund balance for the year. So as Executive Director Selsky said, in January, we'll be doing a presentation more based upon fiscal year ending 18 numbers. I think when the district passed the budget, they were calling for a small deficit, or the deficit went to about $280,000 in the year. Yeah, so what there was really a lot of one-time expenses too that we kind of want to talk about. I think that the district did a pretty good job doing tightening their belt on specific aspects, because the golf revenue came down $135,000 less than the prior year. So golf was really kind of trending downwards, and that's why we went ahead to the reorganization that we did. However, programs like preschool and enrichment really kind of stepped it up this year, so they did a very good job of kind of helping build it up. Kind of want to talk about the one-time expenses, because without those expenses, I think that the district would be looking at, maybe somewhere maybe negative $50,000. Some of those one-time expenses were about $150,000, and expenses related to the lease agreement with Golf Visions and the organization plan. The $150,000 includes like legal fees, finance fees, severance packages, and then communication fees on that. So without doing the lease, we would take $150,000 off that. I think we put $60,000 in coastal engineering fees that were originally on the budget, but we need to get these done so that we can plan out the projects accordingly. $20,000 in software expenses for payroll. That was supposed to be a 2017 expenditure. However, the timing of the project implementation ended up hitting the numbers in 2018. So without these kind of one-term expenditures, I think that we'd be pretty close to hitting our projected numbers initially. And then the dollars that were spent that gave us the deficit was something that kind of the year made it a little weaker, but however, will make the district a lot stronger in the future. So.
Yeah, and I think we would also state that it's still important that we did demonstrate in the budget to make that money back. So it doesn't matter, even though it was a one-time expense, we still wanted to make that money back. So I think though it's important when we break out what that 280 number is and really how we could have done. But I think we still all agree that 2019 we needed to demonstrate to make that money back. So didn't want to mix the message on that, but that when you pare it down, where did that 280 come from? I think that's important.
Well, I think it's important to articulate the cost of transition that we're doing. We know we're all going to be better off operationally, but there's a cost to doing these things.
Yeah, it was hopefully once in a 10, 15-year kind of project.
Yeah.
So I think that we're on a brighter path going forward because of it.
We believe we made changes in here that we walked through. We changed the statement
Bob?
before.
Did they?
Best I can tell, yeah.
I know you and Chris were the ones that point out some things. Okay.
So we changed the capital in the appendix, moved the $2 million down below the line. We changed the payoff debt, we just strengthened that. Those were really get to 25%.
So I mean, we're pretty happy with how the budget came out. However, there's a lot of room for improvement that we hope to do in the next couple of years. So it's a good starting document, which we'll improve on every year going forward.
Yeah, we had Rob and I had a good conversation. Is for the future, do we want to be putting more verbiage in how we compare to budget versus prior year? So those are little tweaks that I think it would be good to work with Treasurer Patera to how in the off season here, do we want to compare more to previous year, or do we want to compare to budget? So we need some guidance on that so we can set up a format.
Yeah.
I think it's a good point.
I think residents are a little bit more interested in knowing maybe how it does compare, assuming all things apples to apples, out to prior year. Because, to budget, they might say, oh, you had a crappy budget anyway. It was, you sandbagged it. So I do like to I like the prior year.
But Bob,
We can have that discussion now, or that's just.
Well, I think it'd be helpful, at least if we just outline a couple of those thoughts, so as we can build the format now, so.
Well, I'm a big advocate of budget because that's the plan we come up with. I mean, when we redid the fitness strategy, when you say you're gonna spend, you know, 60,000 on equipment, I don't care what you did the last year, you gotta do it to budget, because that's what we're gonna hold you guys to. So I get much more interested in the budget than I did prior years.
And we have a lot of
And
historic.
we're responsible to make sure that the budget that is proposed is realistic.
Right. I think it's good to see the prior year, to see if we're making progress, to see if we're moving forward. I think that's a really good kind of base parameter.
Yeah.
But when we make staffing plans, and like next year, to compare in 19 to 18 will be worthless. Because we've made all the staffing plans, we've done all the severance agreements, we've restructured all the funds. You couldn't even write that up next year this time.
It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard comparing, last year to this year, but
Right.
we'll do the best we can. So
That's a good point, I'd rather have, so we can have this conversation.
I agree, comparison to budget makes a lot of sense.
And we always do have those historical numbers in here.
Yeah, I think it's good to see them so we can see trend lines.
So, okay, at least you have a little bit of a snippet on your comments,
I've
that's.
changed my mind.
That was pretty quick.
Well, it's right, it's our responsibility as elected officials to make sure you don't have a sandbag budget and everything. So,
Right.
so yes, I'm.
I think there's a happy meeting where we can add some summary of prior
Yeah.
years,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that maybe, I think you bring up a valid point, so.
Well, it's gonna be kind of surgical numbers you're gonna have to extract there, but I think it's, but you're right, we have a new baseline that we're starting from. And, it's a new direction. So, it's been quite a turn in our navigational course here, but you're right, you still have to retrieve last year in bits and pieces, so you can have some kind of benchmark.
I must say, and again, thank you to everyone involved, Bob, and definitely Treasurer Patera. We were in the office a lot, and that was very helpful. And we did that when Bob was treasurer, and then we were able to do that with Treasurer Patera. So kind of both, it really worked well on how you had Bob mentor Franz, and that's how it works. And so as we get 3 new board members in, I think that's important that for stability of staff purposes, that when there's mentoring going on, it's much easier, much easier. So thank you very much. I will say, after even adding some of the additional things, it still was thin, because I said to him when he handed it to me, I said, are we missing anything? Because it was, it was 30 pages before, and then it really went up to 80, and that's not bad. That is that's really good. So way better than I could ever imagine. So kudos to everyone. You moved my cheese on this one.
You did a lot of heavy lifting.
So we are looking for approval.
What are we approving? Sorry.
The 2019 budget.
Okay.
So you want a motion?
There's something,
So you do.
Well, there's a budget discussion, there's something to amend the 2018 budget. We're not voting on that right now.
not on this one, this is later. So we have 019 we're approving so we could expend the dollars for 019.
Okay, so we're approving 19.
We're approving
Okay, I'm
19.
good. Okay.
Yes,
So moved, I'm good with that.
okay.
I'll second. I think, did you then say so moved? Or you didn't read the motion?
Oh, no, I'm just, I'm reading what's written here.
Okay.
We have to state it as written here, that a
That would
motion,
be good, yeah.
motion to approve the 2019 budget, submit to Lake County and post on the Lake Bluff Park District website.
So moved.
Second.
And roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon?
Yes.
Commissioner McHenry?
Yes.
Commissioner Patera?
Yes.
Commissioner Wallace?
Yes.
President Douglas?
Yes. Okay, next item is ordinance 2018G, supplemental appropriation ordinance.
This is a little bit different, Bob. We'll be coming to yours, maybe
I got it.
the next one.
Okay.
So we approve in March, we approve a budget and appropriation ordinance. increase it 20% each area, so, which gives us the authority in a worst-case scenario that we can't spend more than that. Or if there's a project or one-time expenses, or whatever the case is, that you have the ability to do a supplemental appropriation ordinance.
It's by fund and aggregate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and as well, it's by fund as well as aggregate, so if you spend over 20% or, 120% of your budget, which would be your appropriations number, then you need to amend it as well. It's over to the county. So it's also within fund and in aggregate as a whole.
Is the 20% our number,
That's
or is our number? So another park district could,
Do
you know,
10%.
do 10.
Correct.
That is correct.
It's a good rule of thumb of the industry standard, it's usually about 20%.
Yeah, that's
Just to keep it
that's
up.
pretty standard. Yeah, it gives us some wiggle room. Okay.
We are now coming out of the executive session. May I have a motion? Do we have to prove anything here?
Yeah, the resolution that's on the agenda.
May I have a motion to approve, Resolution 2018C, release of closed session meeting minutes.
So, second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Gordon.
Yes.
Commissioner McKendry.
Yes.
Commissioner Patera.
Yes.
Commissioner Wells.
Yes.
President Douglas.
Yes.
I guess I could abstain.
Okay, I have a motion
Back in.
for adjournment, please.
If it's not too late, I should abstain. I wasn't here. I just recognized that was probably back in some.
We're fine, we still got 4, right?
Is that okay? Just so we
We got 4.